It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this week, Teamwork's Man in the North and Chief People Officer, Gavin O'Brien. Welcome to the webinar, Gavin.
Hello, Alan. How are you? Thanks very much for the warm welcome, and just want to say hello to everybody who's joining us from wherever you're joining us around the world. So either good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you where you're joining us from.
What does home life look like for you at the moment?
Yeah, well, I suppose home life is that I live down on the south coast of Ireland, which is not a bad place to be locked down at the moment. Ireland is still in lockdown mode, so we're fully confined to our locality. We're not allowed to mix with anybody outside of our own immediate families. And my immediate family, I have myself and my wife are here. I have two of my three kids are still at home. As people might have gleaned, I'm slightly of the older generation, so I have one at university and one is just about to start university. So they're at home, all finished their exams, and yeah, so we have a full household at the minute.
Just to start off, can you give us a background on the people operations that we have here in Teamwork?
Sure. So I suppose the first thing is we're a company that we've got 250 staff based across the world. We have staff in about 18 countries at the minute, and I say at the minute is that changes, from week to week and month to month, depending on where we're at, and also depends on where our staff are at, because some of our staff are actually pretty mobile and they move around themselves from country to country. We've actually 8 offices within the company, so we've got 5 of those will be based on the island of Ireland. So we would have 3 in the city of Cork, 1 in the city of Limerick, and 1 in the city of Belfast. And then we have 3 further offices internationally. We've got 1 in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Barcelona in Spain, and then Boston in the United States of America. So we've quite a large team of people across the world. And then our people operations team, there's a team of 5 people, including myself, and we look after providing, I suppose, a range of services to our internal staff in terms of learning and development, compensation and benefits, health and well-being programs, and I suppose general engagement initiatives. And then obviously in terms of prospective employees and applicants out there, it's through our talent acquisition activities that we engage with those. So it's quite a busy environment, which is great.
The landscape has changed so much since March. We're seeing a lot of companies freeze or defer hiring. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so I suppose this current situation is probably unprecedented in terms of in the last number of decades within across the world. It's impacted probably in terms of pandemics, it's impacted the largest number of countries that have so far in a pandemic. What that brings with it is a huge amount of change, and then change leads to uncertainty for business. And I suppose it's the uncertainty then that drives apprehension in relation to business decisions. And one of for many businesses, one of the key decisions that they make is actually in terms of hiring people and investing in people. So if you think about somebody's annual salary, and you think about an investment in terms of, let's say, 5 times that annual salary, and then you add on the benefit costs, you're into a significant amount of investment for an individual just over a 5-year period. And if you were making an investment in a piece of machinery or kit or equipment, you would be making that decision on a huge range of factors, and that's similar to what should be happening with people decisions. So it's not surprising that I suppose businesses are taking a very cautious approach to what's happening now. The uncertainty will continue for probably a number of months, and until that uncertainty starts to diminish and some certainty starts to return, I think there will still be a reticence on companies to hire and to make big decisions in relation to investment. And I suppose from our standpoint, internally in Teamwork, we've also taken the decision that we're stepping back from hiring at the moment in terms of our planned growth activity across this year. We're not cancelling them, we're just stepping back and scaling them back in terms of timing. But I think once some certainty starts to emerge, then the picture will become much more clear, and I think a return to normality will start to appear as well.
For anybody who wasn't aware, remote working has always been part of our culture for many years in Teamwork, and naturally we got quite experienced at it. So for all of the viewers who are getting used to remote hiring, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, so I suppose we've had staff in our company who have been working fully remotely for many years now, so over 4 to 5 years. I think the first thing is that people shouldn't gauge what's happening now as sort of normal working, remote working or normal working from home activity, because as we have it today, working from home is usually a planned choice that people would make, or working remotely is a planned choice. What we have today for many people who are forced to work from home as a result of just the restrictions that are in place, it's not a choice, and suddenly it's something they have to do rather than they've chosen to do. And I suppose the other piece of that is that with home life and people's potential, their house sharing arrangements, their caring arrangements, it means that there are a significant amount of other people or distractions that are in the home today that wouldn't be there, had we, someone chosen to do working from home maybe 6 or 10 months ago. So it's not to gauge this as the normal working remotely or working from home activity. I suppose the other thing is to bear in mind that working from home is certainly, or working remotely is certainly a choice that some people would make, and it's a choice that would suit some people socially, it would suit some people psychologically, and and in terms of, it's very suited to knowledge workers, where the workers are using a lot of their thinking processes, their creative processes, to apply that to a series of tasks that they're completing for team activity or for work. There are other roles and other jobs, and more importantly for other individuals, that psychologically and socially, working remotely, working distant from people is not what they would choose to do, and it doesn't suit them as an individual in terms of their psychological profile. So I think those are some key things that I would say need to be considered. And also then, as a company, are you set up for remote working? Are you set up with the right policies, the right levels of support? Because just because somebody's working from home now does not really make it working remotely going into the future. Do they have the right facilities at home? Do they have the right desk, equipment, etc., to enable that to continue productively in the future? And have you, I suppose, as a company then set up the correct systems and processes for connectivity? And I don't mean just the Wi-Fi, I'm talking about the person-to-person connectivity, the connections within the company to allow that individual to, I suppose, to continue to remain part of a team, even though they're working remotely by themselves. So there's a lot of things that need to be factored in, and so that would be some of the early thoughts.
People operations is such an interpersonal role. What do you miss the most about the face-to-face interactions that we would normally have in Teamwork Campus One?
You might expect this to come from the people guy, but it is the interactions with people. It's the opportunity to have informal talks with people about how are they getting on in their role, how's things at home with their family. You're talking to them about, it's not just work discussions. It's actually you're building up trust with people all the time. You're asking about their family life or their personal life. They're asking you about yours. So that's a series of activities that are really building up trust over a period of time, and that trust is also an important factor in any workplace. It's not that you can't do that when you're distant or when you're remote working, but it is more difficult because the chance interactions don't really happen. If you're going up and down a stairwell or up and down a lift or elevator, you're meeting people at the coffee station. Those chance interactions are less frequent than they would be when you're working remotely. And when you're working remotely, they tend to be scheduled, and they tend to be more formal because you're meeting usually about a work-related topic, and therefore let's say that the opportunity for informal discussion or banter is lessened. And I suppose the other piece that's very important in this is that sometimes people forget as well is that anywhere between 70 up to 90% of communication that happens between individuals is deemed to be non-verbal, and therefore not being able to see all the cues, to see all the body language, to see the eye reactions, can have an impact in terms of deteriorating the quality of the communication that happens as well. So I suppose we've all had situations, for example, where we've read an email or we've read an instant chat message, and we've actually sort of read tone into it ourselves that isn't actually meant to be there, and we've said, oh, that person shouldn't have sent it that way, or they shouldn't have worded it this way, and those are the things that are absent when you engage in distant communication, which doesn't involve person-to-person communication. So as much as possible, what we've done in the company is we've used video calls, as much as possible, and using our own tools to do that, so that we can actually see people. We can actually, everybody can see everybody who's on the call, and you have the visibility. It's still not perfect, but it's better than just doing things by phone or communicating through email messages.
It's definitely not as organic to have those that small talk as well. It's a lot more structured. Keeping everyone productive and engaged at this time is definitely no easy task. Can you share some of the activities that you're leading to keep everyone engaged?
I suppose from our standpoint, as I said, we've teams working remotely across all of our functional areas, in terms of we've got people who are based in hub offices with people who are working remotely, and so we've had a number of things in place already. But I suppose since this, our whole company is fully working remotely, what we've done is we've set up a number of things that are designed to try and keep us together, first of all, as a company, and more importantly then, just to keep us connected with each other. So each week, our CEO and our leadership team have a weekly business update call. So that's a video call with all our staff around the world, and that's very much aligned to explain to everybody what's happening within the company, and gives everybody an opportunity to interact. Everybody can see each other. We have questions and answers in that as well, and we ask people what is the topics they want to cover. So that's very important for us as a total company to have that, and that happens each week on a Thursday. Each team then has their own daily stand-up. Normally some of our development teams would have had that, but we've extended that now to every team in the company. We've asked them all to have a daily stand-up where it's a short time where everybody gets together, talks about what they're working on, any issues that they're facing, and generally, talking about anything from what are you watching on Netflix, what have you been doing to pass your time, what did you do last night. So there's an element of just connecting on an individual basis, as well as talking about work topics. We also have our one-to-ones that we have with this is where the team lead would meet with the individual team members. So that happens, again, 2 to 3 times a week at this point. And we've asked also our staff to reach out to each other, which is very important. So we've asked staff to reach out to at least 2 members of the team each week, so that they can initiate just general chats, general discussions, and not specifically about work, but about other things. And then I suppose what working in teamwork has always been, it's a fun place to work. We have a very good culture in the company, and one of the things we wanted to do was to try and continue that while we were all working remotely. So we've injected some fun things into our workplace. We use our own teamwork chat, which is one of our products that we use to set up specific chat rooms for working from home. And through that chat room, then we've organized competitions like picture competitions. If somebody has, and we've organized various themes, so that people send in their pics, then we judge them, and prizes are awarded for those things. We've had a tradition of Pizza Friday in the company, so we've organized a few Pizza Fridays as well, and people have created their own pizzas, ordered them in, whatever is the case. We've also had virtual coffee mornings, so or virtual drinks afternoons, depending on the time of day. So again, this is just everybody gets on board, brings their favorite drink or their favorite coffee mug or whatever, and then we have a talk about random stuff that people want to talk about. It's not work related, and that worked out really well. I suppose the other thing we're conscious of is the we can do these things, but I suppose it's also important that people take care of their own health and their own mental health while they're off working from home, and they don't neglect that. So we've had exercise sessions, we've had yoga sessions, we've had mindfulness sessions, all again through our online chat channels and through our video calls. And I suppose the other thing that we did, which worked out really well and our staff really appreciated it, was we enlisted the services of a clinical psychotherapist for a session where You know, they explained, you know, I suppose the watch outs for people when working from home, the watch outs about isolation, and I suppose the watch outs about the loneliness factor as well, and looked at some of the coping skills and some of the things that people should be doing proactively to counteract the things that might, you know, they may be facing while working from home, and I suppose how to deal with their kids and with other family members as well. So that session was greatly appreciated, and we all found a lot of benefit from it.
Just diving a bit more into the process there, can you share how these initiatives are delivered through the Teamwork Suite?
So yeah, I suppose, you know, we've 5 products that you know, hopefully some of our customers are aware of most of those products, but I suppose 2 of them are specifically designed for us to help keep in contact with our customers, which is, I suppose, Teamwork CRM, or you know, and Teamwork Desk, and those really are aimed at how, you know, for companies and indeed ourselves to keep in contact with our customers. I suppose internally then, in terms of our focus on work collaboration and being able to work effectively and efficiently while everybody working remotely has probably concentrated on our 3 other products. I would say Teamwork Chat has been to the core of what we've been doing over the last 10, 11 weeks. Teamwork Chat provides us with the opportunity for video calls. It provides us with the opportunity for instant messaging while working on other things. You can use chat, and it also provides us the opportunity to create specific channels, so and specific chat rooms for individual groups. So I would describe it as basically our total communication tool, in that sense that it's kept not only the company together, it's kept teams together, and it's kept us individually connected. I suppose then Teamwork Spaces, which is our document creation and collaboration tool, has been really, really powerful for us during this time, in that we've been able to actually share more ideas, create more space for creative thinking, and it's allowed us to, I suppose, to generate a huge amount of new areas where we can share more information much more quickly and work on it collaboratively together at the same time, and that's proved excellent for us. And again, I suppose we're using it more and more every day, you know, during this time. And then I suppose the last one then is obviously our flagship Teamwork product, which, you know, some people may know as Teamwork Projects. I mean, that has been immense for us in terms of just actually tracking our own workload, tracking our own workflows, tracking the milestones on major projects, and actually just ensuring that we as a company, first of all, meet all our own goals and objectives as we're moving through the months and the weeks of the quarter, but also then each team can track, you know, what do we need to move forward on, and it gives everybody across the company visibility of all of the work and all of the projects at the same time, and the dashboards are excellent there for that. So I suppose we have been a great example of using our own products and our own tools to work even more collaboratively than we even thought possible ourselves.
Working from home is especially challenging for families at this point in time. How are you supporting staff who are finding it difficult to balance work and family in the same environment? I think you touched on this a little bit already.
What I would say is that working from home is definitely challenging, I think, for everybody. And even what I would say is, you know, the people who were working remotely before this pandemic hit would have had the opportunity to work from home, and then when they finish their work during the day, is to get up and go out, meet friends, go out, socialize, visit bars, restaurants, etc. And those guys don't have that now, the same way as anybody else doesn't have it now at this stage. So I think it's there for everybody. For people then, in terms of their own domestic and social arrangements, so if you're house sharing with people, and those individuals also are, you know, now confined to working from home with their jobs, that's presented difficulties in terms of everybody vying for space, using, you know, maybe broadband that's not actually up to speed, as it were. And then I suppose families as well, you know, for especially for people who have school-going kids or kids that are preschool going, where they may have been using the services of a childminder before, or they've been able to, you know, they've been at school most of the day. Now they're faced with the prospect of having to mind their child, or having to do homeschooling as well for a period of time. So that's a whole new dynamic that's just been thrust upon some of our families. So what we've been doing is, first of all, we've said to people, in those circumstances, you've got total flexibility to work the hours that you need to work, or work the hours that you can work, and that during this time, we're completely open and flexible. We're not, it's not about working, your 35, 37-hour week. It's actually about working whatever that you can, and you've total flexibility in that. So that's worked well, and we've communicated that to our staff and to our parents, or the people who are either carers or parents. We've also said to people, to focus on fewer priorities during this time. So, because we understand the productivity and work, workload may be lessened in terms of the priorities we're able to get through at this time. So we said, work on fewer priorities and agree those with your own team lead and manager. And I suppose then overall, as a company, then we're taking cognizance of the fact that people are not operating at their full capacity because of either personal circumstances, family circumstances, and we recognize that, and we're taking full cognizance of that as we look at things like how are people achieving in terms of targets and goals, and all of that has been fully considered. And where we were able to do it, where people were working close to our one of our 8 offices, we've been able to deliver equipment home to those individuals, through chairs, extra screens, extra monitors, or extra equipment that we know that most people aren't set up for a home office. So therefore, even a good chair to sit on that supports your back is difficult. So where possible, we've been able to allow staff to take those home or deliver them home to people. So we've tried to do everything that we can, Alan, to help people.
My last question for today, was there anything else or any other challenges that you faced or any insights that you'd like to share just from the past couple of months?
Many of us have read different articles, whether it's online about, what you should do in terms of trying to help yourself work from home successfully and work remotely successfully. And, I know there are things that some of us might say, well, these are common sense, but at the same time, if you don't follow good practice, it's going to make life more difficult for you. So, a couple of those things are, when the company Buffer, they did a large-scale survey of over 3,500 people who are working remotely from home, and this was in 2020. So their report, which is the State of Working of Remote Work Report 2020, a couple of the things that were identified there as being the challenges was not being able to work effectively in terms of collaboration. So that was number one. And I suppose the second challenge was actually loneliness. And when you think about loneliness in itself, it's something that when you're not working remotely and you're working in an office, it's not to say that you may not still be lonely, but the chances of you being lonely are lessened through having greater interactions, the chance interactions we mentioned earlier on. So therefore, you need to plan to have the interactions. So you need to. That's why we've set in place, the meetings that I talked about earlier, the weekly company meetings, the weekly team meeting, the daily team meetings, the one-to-ones, and then the calls between work colleagues. They have to be planned. They have to happen, because if they don't happen, just leaving them to chance doesn't work, and then that exacerbates the loneliness feel. So I think planning the activity and ensuring that they do happen, and following up with people as well. If people aren't attending the calls, if people are not are missing a few calls, then it's incumbent upon, certainly what I'll be doing is encouraging our own team leads and to follow up with those individuals, because again, they may be having a difficult time. So where you see that happening is to follow up with those people individually, to reach out to them and make sure that they do feel connected, and we're taking care of them. And I suppose the other thing again is just this period is a period of change. We've seen significant change in the last 10, 11 weeks in terms of how the majority of people work. That change is not over yet. I think as people start to return to work, there are some restrictions in place country by country, and over a period of time, those restrictions will ease off, will lessen, and what we knew about in terms of our workplace and the office in terms of what it looked like before will return. So in other words, there is an end in sight. There is time. We'll take care of this, and we will see the future return of the office as we know it.
We're going to move over to the audience questions now, and
Yep.
The first one here is just from Lauren. So thank you very much for the question, Lauren. She's just said, "Hi Gavin, thanks for sharing today. If you have staff who test positive for the coronavirus, how do you communicate it to the rest of your staff?
Okay, so that's a great question, Lauren. So thank you. I suppose, firstly, this question is something that has actually happened to ourselves. So we've had a number of cases within our workforce, and what we did is that, first of all, our first priority was with the individual. So we wanted to make sure the individual was fine, that they were in good health, and that they were getting the right medical care, and that obviously was happening. We were interested again in terms of working with the appropriate authorities to ensure that any immediate contacts the person had that were alerted to that. So that's what we did, is we contacted any staff who had immediate contacts with the individual, and we followed all the protocols from the relevant health authorities, yeah, so we managed the situation according to the practice that was put in place by the relevant authorities. And I suppose the main thing is that the individuals have all made a full recovery, and none of them were hospitalized as a result of their diagnosis of having the COVID-19. So thankfully, that they were on the milder level of cases. But yeah, that's how we communicated, and we managed it very well in ensuring that everybody had the full information to allow those individual staff then to take their necessary precautions for them and their families as well.
The next question here is from Nathan. So welcome to the webinar, Nathan. He's just mentioned, hi guys, thanks for sharing your insights today. A lot of folks here in DC are reluctant to work in the office again. How would you approach a workforce who are apprehensive about returning to the working to the office environment?
Yeah, so again, this is a very good question, Nathan, and I suppose it's very pertinent for many people as we start to look at, hopefully over the next weeks and months, restrictions being eased so that people can get back into the office space. I think the best way to do this is through, I suppose, very good communication with staff, communicating firstly what are the precautions that are still in operation within each location, within each country, and how that translates into what that will mean in the office. What precautions the company is taking to ensure and protect people's health and protect the risk of infection during this time. And also important then to communicate to staff what their obligations are as well in relation to how they need to protect themselves coming into work and how they need to protect their colleagues. So for example, clearly explaining the hygiene regulations and the hygiene measures we put in place, clearly explaining whether there's social distancing to be maintained in the workplace. I suppose as long as everybody's clear on those expectations, both from a company standpoint and from an individual standpoint, and that's communicated well, that will go a long way to alleviating some fears. I suppose the other piece of this is that if staff still are uncomfortable coming back in because maybe the staff member themselves might have an underlying condition, or a member of their staff, a member of their family, or at home may have an underlying condition, I would suggest to employers that you show flexibility there. The individual has demonstrated that they can work from home, and therefore you might consider them allowing to work from home for a longer period of time, until such times as they're happy and satisfied and content to come back into an office.
The last question for today, and it's from Melissa. It's a short question. She's just asking, are symptomatic employees entitled to sick pay in teamwork?
Firstly, yeah, we've in teamwork we've a very good sick pay policy. So when staff are out sick, we provide them with full pay, and for staff who are out sick in relation to having symptoms of COVID-19, that's no different. And anybody that is out of work sick, obviously we cover them with healthcare. We have follow-up services as well that are provided through that healthcare plan. And our intention is to try and make sure, firstly, that the individual is cared for in the right way. Secondly, that they don't have any financial worries while they're out sick. And I suppose thirdly, then we just want them to get well and to get back into work as soon as possible whenever they're ready to do so. So yeah, we do want to take that worry of any financial worries away from them, and we provide that for staff.
So to wrap up today's session, I'm just going to give our audience a quick heads up on our next interview. It's going to take place on the 5th of June at the exact same time. Our guest speaker will be our Global Head of Sales, Adrian Foley. So on the 5th, you can expect Adrian to share his insights on sales and leadership in this unprecedented time. So please do let your sales staff that we've got some great insights lined up for them. And I think that's it from us here in Teamwork. Thank you all very much for your time today, and thank you, Gavin, for your insights today. They were brilliant.